what's going to happen for like entry-level jobs, new college graduates, all of that, because you didn't leverage experience yet. Those are the kind of jobs AI is pretty good at replacing.
Let's jump into the headlines. Okay, Meta offers $100 million signing bonus or bonuses to poach OpenAI talent. Trump family launches a $500 gold smartphone and mobile network. Airbus raises dividend payout range and confirms 2025 guidance. Hasbro cuts 3% of workforce amid rising tariff costs. Elon Musk, XAI raises $5 billion in debt funding. And then we're going to go on to the national holidays this week.
I love this. And I don't know if people know this about us, Tom, but we are the creators of most new holidays in the world at this point. We have a platform, a site that creates these viral holidays. We get 10 million visitors a month. And so we love celebrating these holidays. We love celebrating things. And what is this week?
People, please go and check out nationaldaily.com if you want to know the whole list, because it is quite extensive. But I've picked up a few. Here we go. Universal Father's Week, obviously Father's Day. Global Garbage Man Day. We call them affectionately bin men here.
Any of the professional holidays do incredibly well. People love tagging someone they know. I mean, we usually have on the site like 30,000 to 50,000 organic shares per year on like a profession like that.
Clean Your Kitchen Vents Day. So this is part of our new reminders.
Yeah, you can go to National Today and you're going to get like home maintenance reminders. So to keep your home in tip-top shape, Clean Your Kitchen Vents Day, sure.
National Harrison Day and Yan Day. So these are name days. So anyway, if you know anyone called Harrison, go and celebrate. A National Splurge Day, spend a bit of money. But I've read the holiday and you have to do it sensibly. Juneteenth is also coming up. National Take Your Dog to Work Day. If you've got a pup and you're allowed to take your dog to work, you're absolutely allowed to do that this week. I will mention in passing a couple of people's birthdays. Tupac, his birthday 16th of June.
Rest in peace. Huge impact on the hip hop world.
Or maybe not rest in peace. There's a conspiracies that he's still alive and kicking out bed.
Okay. Yep.
Kendrick Lamar's birthday as well. Lionel Richie, I do love Lionel Richie music, and Nicole Kidman as well. All of their birthdays this week.
Okay, well, very good. Look forward to celebrating all of that.
So the first story, Meta offering $100 million signing bonus to poach OpenAI talent. Now, it feels like we talked a little bit about Mark Zuckerberg and Meta's investment into sort of infrastructure in the US over there, and how they're plowing loads of money into AI.
Let's have, Meta nuclear power plant. Yes.
Now the next stage, I'm assuming here, according to this headline, is that Zuckerberg is effectively building the Avengers, but for algorithms. He's putting together a super intelligence team, apparently, and trying to poach all the best sort of talent, from all of the biggest companies. I've got some key facts here for the story. Meta has targeted a lot of people on OpenAI's team with 9-figure offers. CEO Mark Zuckerberg is personally recruiting for new superintelligence group. That's what it's called, the superintelligence group.
Tom, have we been invited to this? I mean, clearly we're qualified.
Where exactly?
Where did our invite? I have not received anything yet, but I'm sure it's just a delayed for the superintelligence invite.
It's on its way. It says here that despite the massive offers, none of OpenAI's best people have accepted Meta's proposal so far. Sam Altman has come out and said that these offers are crazy, and that he states that he believes that people are staying at OpenAI because they think the company has a much better shot at delivering superintelligence.
I think this is interesting from a couple different perspectives. The first perspective is just scarcity. And that is, these tech companies and Meta is one of them, Google is one of them, it's money is not the scarce resource, right? Talent is. So it makes sense from their point of view that we have a pile of money. We've essentially made a business that just like mints money, that us taking a relatively small portion of it, even in the case of $100 million signing bonus, is still small because that's not our scarce resource. So from that perspective, it makes sense. What is interesting, though, is from the perspective of just the Silicon Valley ecosystem and pecking orders and companies and companies and where they stand in terms of talent. So Google, in some ways, is the gold standard, right? Like a lot of the innovations in generative AI that are happening now really happened, were created by Google. Were created by, Google's DeepMind division, which was kind of like their research lab division that suddenly is like the core engine of the entire company, right? It was like used to be this like, oh, people doing crazy stuff over here, whatever, just let them research. And suddenly all of that crazy stuff turns out to be like really important. So Google was kind of the gold standard. But then OpenAI came and sort of outflanked them. And really the innovation of OpenAI, which in part started because they had this, it was supposed to be non-commercial mission, I guess at least supposedly was that. They had this sort of mission like that. And then they went through and basically by the virtue of realizing that there's this notion of basically human feedback to correct the AI and to basically make it better performing for human use cases would have amazing gains. And now you have Facebook, Meta kind of looking on the outside saying that we can do a lot of this too, but what is our competitive advantage? And some of it has been they're going to open this up, share it with the world. It's not going to be as proprietary, which is ironic. Consider Meta, Facebook is super proprietary on stuff when they're the leader. It's just when they're not the leader, then they open things up. And two, now they're going to compete for talent. So I think it is actually interesting from a talent point of view. In many ways, Google is the gold standard, but now you look at Google's stock price and suddenly it's not, right? So it's interesting to see how this plays out. What I will say is that there are competing emotions in all of this when I talk to developers, and I'm in San Francisco, so I talk to a lot of developers. I mean, when you talk to someone who's devoted their life to computer science, I mean, this is the golden age of computer. I mean, this is aside from computing itself, this is like the transformative moment. So anyone who's worked for decades in this, it's like, you don't want to be on the sidelines for this. You want to be in the game. So there's a lot of actually mission-driven motive to do this. But, money talks also. It probably doesn't talk just on its own, but you're like, maybe I could get a paycheck and have a great mission and work with a great team and all of that. But I'd say this is complex because we are, basically in another Renaissance period, like the Italian Renaissance. And it's driven by AI. And so lots of people want to be a part of it. It is not as simple as the biggest paycheck wins.
I remember vividly when Google sort of first started up being the place to work.
Yeah, because you can have all these food and all these snacks and until people figured out that, wait, they're keeping us at work really late. It's a trick. But yes, you would be kind of excited about the perks.
Do you think now, being where you are and speaking to developers and this kind of thing, do you think OpenAI is now the place to work, but not necessarily because of the culture, but more so because of the mission?
I just think it's some of the older guard, if you will, of the Apples, which we've talked about on the show, and the Googles are a little bit like older guard. I still think Google, though, they're doing a lot of really innovative things. So I think Apple probably has a bigger problem than Google, but I do think there's this sort of new guard, which is normal, and OpenAI is leading that, and it's kind of normal that happens, right? That's always happened. You're the plucky startup, you take on the giants, you topple the giants, but then you become a giant and then someone's going to come along and topple you. That is essentially, if you've read the book, The Innovator's Dilemma, that's the innovator's dilemma.
Does Meta's move feel like a bit of a tackle measuring competition? Can they throw more money at it than it seems like they're throwing more money at it than OpenAI.
OpenAI is throwing a lot of money at this too. I mean, I think they all are, right? And then these kind of, engineers are well paid across the board, right? So it's not, so I don't think it's that. I think what you just have to do is there's different factors in this, and it has a hint of desperation in it, right? It feels a little bit desperate, but there's a lot of resources going on. And then you have this other countercurrent of companies that can figure out smartly how to do things with less resources, right? I think where there's a risk is there's just a risk that the AI, and this is what I think is unclear yet, which is that the AI gets so good that a lot of other companies that are big companies in their own right get defeated by, agentic or general AI, meaning you have this really applied use case, right, that you've worked on, and the general AI gets so good that even though you've worked on this use case as your company and you're like a multi-billion-dollar company for this use case, that you could actually be dethroned by this generalized solution. And we've never seen that before, right? Usually if you specialize, if you go niche, you win that niche. And the question is that niche big enough or not? But in this case, it's like, it's questionable whether is that niche even safe to the general players. We'll see.
All right, let's move on to the next story. The Trump family launches $500 gold smartphone and mobile network. The story is the Trump organization has unveiled plans to launch a gold-colored smartphone called the T1, priced at $499, alongside a new Trump mobile network service costing $47.45 per month. The venture represents the latest effort by the Trump family to capitalize on the president's brand. So it said it'll be available in August 2025. It will feature call centers built in the United States. The company claims phones will be made in America. The pricing references Trump being the 47th and 45th president, and Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump are leading the mobile venture. Now, this seems to me, just from an outsider's perspective, that he's trying hard to make money from his time in office.
What I would say is, I mean, obviously this goes back years, right? Trump Stakes, Trump University, all of these things that are, kind of licensed uses as the name to something a little bit more active, involvement from I guess the Trump organization, his company. What I would say is that I think the interesting thing about this is, I think he was like a little bit more restrained in, first 4 years. This one, we're nearing the end. They've broken so many expected norms and rules. It's like, what's another? And I think there is this sort of sense within the Make America Great Again community, who are the grifters and who are not. Like, meaning within the community, people realize there's commercial possibility because this community shares a certain worldview, certain values. And if you align your company or your brand with those values, then there's a business to be had in that community, which is niche, but big, like a big niche.
Yeah.
So what I feel is that at some point, the Trump family feels like if they see anything in that community, like people making enough money off of it or enough possibility, they're like, we want in on it too. Does it take away from the presidency? Does it take away from what he's trying to accomplish? I mean, certainly. But it might be on the margins, right? Like this starts to generate a lot of like headlines this week. Is it a good plan for him to be in the smartphone business and the network business? Well, I guess if it goes okay, maybe. And you got, I mean, I know we've talked about before, Ryan Reynolds has his. It's like Ryan Reynolds can do it. It's been successful. Mint Mobile. We should probably do it too. It's probably, but you also have to realize like, you can also something like providing someone's phone. There's a lot of things that can go wrong too. That can get a lot of people angry and upset at you, but Trump has weathered more. And I mean that, usually when you do this, like using other people's networks, your network's data gets deprioritized when there's network congestion. So something happens, there's an emergency, and like all Trump phone network people like can't get through to their loved ones. This is a problem, right? But in the scheme of things, they may not care because his success and failure is going to be determined by these big macroeconomic events, not this. And probably this is a little blip that he takes a hit for a week and he moves on.
I'm assuming you're not going to buy one, but do you think it'll sell? Will people buy this? Do you think it'll be a profitable venture?
I mean, people are investors in Truth Social, right? People are investors in, so there seems to be a market for this. Yes.
It's not going to disrupt Apple, or it's not going to, I don't think, bother any of the larger players, right?
Probably not.
Samsung,
but
Apple.
Gosh, if he's successful, I mean, are we going to see George Clooney phone? Are we going to see other things? Like, who's a big enough Taylor Swift phone? Like who's a big enough star to be able to pull that off? We'll see.
Super interesting. All right, let's move on. Airbus raises dividend payout range and confirms 2025 guidance. So the story is the European aerospace giant Airbus announced it will increase shareholder returns by raising its dividend payout ratio from 30 to 50% from the previous 30 to 40%, while it confirming its 2025 financial guidance. They're obviously confident about something, but I'm not quite sure what it is. I mean, they said there's obviously been supply chain issues with Airbus. They said they're going to deliver 820 aircraft in 2025, but why are they so confident?
I have one word for you.
Okay.
Boeing. Boeing.
Yes.
Boeing is why they're confident. I mean, Boeing just has had a string of safety issues, bad news, negative news, delays. And so by comparison, Airbus is winning over Boeing. And I think that gives a lot of confidence. I think the aviation industry is an interesting one right now because there's a lot of potential technological changes that could really alter it. And I'll give you a few. I mean, we haven't seen yet the full realization of autonomous aircraft. That is coming, right? Being able to accomplish other things. I don't necessarily, might be a while for passenger flights, but other types of aircraft, transport, other things. I mean, that is. I think it's actually harder than autonomous driving because driving, you have roads, you have rules, you have stoplights, you have stop signs, you follow. This is more freeform, but this is coming. Another one is sustainable jet fuel. Lots of different methods from jet fuel from green algae or other things. It's going to change the cost structure in the industry as well as make things environmental friendly.
Would you get on a plane that has no pilot?
Do you have like the Waymo self-driving cars? We have a ton in San Francisco. I mean, if my kids are like, we play a game in the car. When they spot a self-driving car first, they get a point. They get a gold star. So we're often driving around. We see them all over. Do you get those there? Are you seeing those or no?
Definitely not in my local area. Maybe in London, but I haven't seen a lot of them. We haven't got a lot of the self-driving stuff. Although I would jump headfirst into a Waymo self-driving car, no problem. But on a plane, nah, I'm not. No. I'm not. No, because of the rules you were saying. You were mentioning earlier, there's stoplights and there's rules to the road. In the air, no, I'll pass. It's a hard pass for me.
Where you're going to see this is transforming certain industries and services. So, I mean, what are some of the ones that you're going to see autonomous? I mean, we see that with drones, but I think aircraft too is going to be like, surveillance, security, mapping, surveying, inspection. You could certainly see like disaster response, agriculture, delivery, and logistics, right? Like important cargo, but not like having 200 humans on board if something happens. So there's a lot of places for impact to be had in industries that are not just passenger travel.
All right, let's move on to some bad news for our children. Hasbro has cut 3% of the workforce amid rising tariff costs. So they've laid off 150 employees. I know we talked a lot about a lot of layoffs globally right now. But they laid off 3% of their global workforce as a part of cost-cutting measures to offset the impact of higher US tariffs on toy imports from China. Now, as far as our research has gone, Hasbro still gets 50% of their toys. They're made in China, which is interesting, right? Still in 2025, still 50% of the toys, Hasbro's toys, are made in China. I'm not sure if your kids play with them, but they're sort of famous for making toys from Transformers to Nerf and Monopoly, all these kind of things. Any thoughts on the tariffs specifically, how they're affecting businesses?
This is just a function of uncertainty. And we're going to, unfortunately, start to see this across tons of industries coming up. It's like uncertain times, compared with like sense of weakening demand, maybe just like economy's not super strong, combined with uncertainty around tariffs, the role of AI. I think the next 5 years probably, for sure has a lot of this on the radar. I would generally say, the default approach, and as you know, we've interviewed a ton of CEOs, right? And the default approach of a CEO for uncertainty is probably be conservative. Make sure that you can keep the lights on longer, like stay in the game. And there is this sense of, when I talk to other CEOs now, of like, gosh, we should have been more nimble for a while now. We never really had a chance to do it. And now we sort of have permission to do it. So unfortunately, I think we're going to see a lot of these kind of announcements come up. And we're also going to see a ton of these voluntary buyouts come up, right? Which is supposed to be like the kind of the more humane way to do it.
Crazy. I think nearly 700,000 people so far have been have laid off.
The related question to that is like, what's going to happen for like, you know, entry level jobs, new college graduates, all of that? Because where you're at risk is like AI replacing that job, AI replacing that role, because that was presumably a role where you gained experience. You didn't leverage experience yet. And those are the kind of jobs like, you know, that AI is pretty good at replacing.
All right. Final headline. Elon Musk's xAI raises $5 billion debt in debt funding. So the story is Elon Musk's artificial intelligence startup xAI is on track to close a $5 billion debt raise led by Morgan Stanley, the CMO of which came on our show not too long ago, despite reportedly tepid investor demand. The company is also pursuing additional equity funding, I believe up to 10 billion or something like that. So again, Musk is also in the race at chucking money at AI.
It is. And I don't know if you saw this, but the report I saw was that xAI is burning through $1 billion per month. That's what I saw. That is like, there's very few companies that can pull that off, people, but it does help when you're the richest, you know, person in the world. That helps. But, you know, boy, that is, you know, $1 billion a month to do something. I mean, that shows you like the kind of stakes in this. And the other report I saw was that xAI has probably it raised like 14 billion. That's gone. I mean, at $1 billion a month, that lasts you about a year. So even, you know, the world's richest man needs to have some debt financing and debt structure. You know, xAI was really far behind in this and managed to, you know, do some things at very, very fast speed, in part because they were sort of willing to break things and fix them later, and two, because they put an enormous amount of resources into things.
Slightly breaking news. A few hours ago, Elon Musk went on record blasting Grok as an AI tool because it said something about it claimed right-wing political violence has been more frequent and deadly than left-wing violence or something like that. So he went on record saying that you know, Grok was a major fail for Grok. And it was objectively false and this kind of stuff. Super interesting.
Well, it is interesting. What I will say is that you have a certain level of people and a certain level of celebrity that you just, it's a different ball game. And as you know, we work a lot in PR, right? I've led a lot of PR agencies and companies, and it's just a different level of game when you're a celebrity and just like literally anything you say is news. And you know, anything you say is news. So you just have to take everything with a grain of salt. Like, you know, why is Elon Musk saying this? Is he just trying to shine a spotlight on this, on a couple of things at once? You can draw attention, but it is a different game at a certain level of celebrity where like literally everything you do or say is newsworthy. And so when I see things coming out of people like that, I'm trying to understand what the agenda is.
Can it really still be called this is like still on track, but can it really be called a startup if it's got $20 billion in funding?
It's like, you know, when you had like, I don't know, like did your grandparents ever say this? Like age is an attitude. Age is just a number. I'm young at heart, right? Yeah. It's like, I actually do think startup is like, it's a culture. It's a set of values. It's an approach, right? And so I do think it probably is irrespective of the amount of money you have or the money of resources you have, probably is what a startup is. But the issue is that as you pile on money and resources, it gets very hard to be a startup because you need this sort of willingness to, you know, be nimble, be agile, do things, iterate, see around a corner, look at things differently. And those are all things that money and resources and people and org charts like kill.
All right, fantastic. So to sum up, Zuckerberg's shopping for brains, Trump wants your mobile contract, Hasbro is laying people off so Monopoly can keep printing money, and Elon's raising billions to make ChatGPT, but with more sass. We'll catch you next time.